Welcome to The Real Authority. Today I'm talking about the brand new horror film Bone Lake. It basically sees a couple booking at a house for the weekend only to discover that another couple booked the same house at the same time. So they basically decide to stay in the house, everybody, only to discover that not everything is as it seemed, and everyone might not be who they say to be. Horror movie fan, hello. Of course, I was excited. Why don't we get into it? Acting's great around the board. Granted, it's a smaller scale cast because it takes place predominantly at the house. So the main four had to give stellar performances in order to make you care for the ride, and I gotta say they did. Starting off with Maddie Hasten, I'm not gonna lie, I thought she was Florence Pugh the entire runtime. I was going into it thinking, hey, that's Florence Pugh. No, that's a different actress. Granted, I thought the same way a bit, although I didn't say, that's Florence Pugh. Elevation. You remember Elevation? I don't blame you if you don't remember Elevation. Regardless, Hasten gives a great performance, making Sage a sympathetic character and one worth rooting for alongside her boyfriend, Diego, played by Marco Pagosi. You absolutely feel for them, as well as wanting to see how they escape this situation and how their relationship progresses. This movie really does a great job at developing their relationship. Alex Rowe and Andrea Nachita as Will and Shin also did amazing work. They were compelling in a lot of ways too, granted, not in the ways you would expect. I'm not going to go into more detail because it's obviously going to be spoilers. But yeah, all four did a fantastic job. Mercedes Bryce Morgan also did fantastic directing work. In fact, there were a lot of shots that really were inventive, and there were a lot of moments which were just well executed. Maybe Nick Matthews' cinematography has to do with that, but the cinematography had to have a great director in order for it to shine. For the cinematographer is more qualified than the movie. No, they work hand in hand, and they worked very well. Alongside Joshua Friedlander's screenplay, I felt he did a strong job too, not only at complementing the rest of the elements, I guess, making this movie more suspenseful than its genre conventions that it's definitely taking from. Again, me, myself, I'm okay if a movie borrows from other movies as long as it paves its own identity, and it does. Especially with the suspense. Like, with the small scale, it's not like all over the place, it's more focused, thus allowing the suspense to really resonate and really sink in. Also effective horror moments in which you're left guessing almost all the time what is going to happen. Rounding out the positives, the score from Rock Banos and Ben Cherny, that was also intense and suspenseful. I only really have two complaints, and they're not even like major negatives, they're like more mixed elements, but they do hold the movie back. The movie does try to implement some dark comedy in it, which sometimes it worked, other times it kind of felt forced, it kind of felt like it fell flat, but I do appreciate the effort. Finally, even though it's 93 minutes, I do feel there are some pacing issues here and there, which is kind of crazy because there was a similar movie that came out earlier this year called Companion, aka the first amazing movie of 2025. It ran a similar runtime, and yeah, I felt no pacing issues there. Unfortunately here, the setup is definitely intriguing, but I do feel there are moments where either the setup or the execution just kind of slowed down. It's mostly a slow burn, but it does run the risk of being slow, and a lot of times it does become that, but never at the point where you leave dissatisfied. Overall, Bone Lake is definitely a fun horror movie that, if you're a horror fan like me, you should definitely consider checking out. With fantastic performances and an intense atmosphere that leave you gripped, of course, The Real Authority approves. 9 out of 10. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and comment your thoughts on Bone Lake as well as this review. Alright, peace.